Chill Sounds and Breakdowns podcast. We have another great episode. Today is episode 40. What, Bert?
44.
44. Are you sure? You didn't sound so sure that time.
44.
44. Okay. And today we have the awesome dudes. Part of them. Actually, we have this is the most people I've had on the podcast this year now. So you have that title now. But we have Azimuth Zenith. What's going on, man?
How's it going?
And today we have, introduce yourselves. Tell us what you do in the band.
I'm Luke. I'm the drummer of the band, and
I'm Mason. I'm one of the guitarists.
I'm Ian. I'm also one of the guitarists.
Which one?
The other one.
Yeah.
The other
one. Bass is a guitar too. People, they call him a bassist. He's playing a guitar. He's a guitarist. Yeah,
other guitar.
Yeah, two guitars.
Guitar and other guitar.
I'm the left guitarist. He's the right guitarist.
That's the description I was looking for. I need left. Right. When I'm
right,
looking at it, I was like, that's the guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if I'm on stage, yeah. If you're looking at us, it's the other way around. But
right and left.
Yeah, right and left.
No, I'm confused.
Yeah. It took us a while too. Yeah.
It took to figure it out.
Wait, no, you're over there. No.
Badass. I'm glad you guys can make it today. Honestly, I'm super excited. I actually got the chance to see you guys play when you opened up for Hunt the Dinosaur. And that was my first experience seeing you guys, because I had listened to your music, but because I found out when Luke was I drum for 4 different bands, and then we had Spineless on here, and I'm like, what are these other bands? I need to know them. So definitely started listening to, but how did this when did you guys start this particular band?
It's all them. They started that.
Can I take it?
Yeah, I guess. I don't. Basically, this guy and I, the other guitarist, left guitarist and right guitarist, were roommates in college, and we just would jam and write music, and we did this for probably 2 or 3 years before ever, I don't know. We kind of were like, should we make a band? Should we? We just kind of were beating around the bush about it until one day we were like, you know what, we should make a band, because we had all this music we wrote and we wanted to do something with it. So we made a band, but then it was just the 2 of us. So we had to bring some other people in the band because nobody wants to see 2 guitarists play alone. So yeah, we brought first we brought Luke on, and then Joe, who's our vocalist, and then Tyler, the bassist. The other guitars.
Yeah. So you kind of start off with just you guys just pretty much just jamming and writing music.
Yeah, right? we wrote basically on our computers. We just wrote out basically an album or over an album's worth of material each, and we were like, okay,
hold on, each.
maybe not each, but we had plenty of music, and we were like, but it's very different music. But it would be nice if we were in a band together, be able to put this stuff together. So we kind of came up with the whole theory behind our band. We don't have to get into it now, but
you just made it intriguing. Now I need what.
Yeah. Basically, we found a way to put our light music together with our very heavy music and get the whole thing with a little backstory behind it. And we ended up recording the whole album, just while we were in college and right whenever we graduated college, and then eventually added vocals to it afterwards. Yeah. But yeah.
Oh, so is this? So I was looking through your discography and stuff, and then I guess that makes sense now because the instrumental version of it, I saw it came out in 2018, and the one with vocals didn't come out till 2021. So I was like, oh, is that an upload? Did they upload at a different time? But no, you originally wrote it just instrumentally.
Yeah. Okay. I guess it was instrumental with the intent of eventually adding vocals, but we wanted to stand on its own originally, and we wanted to have the vocalist be somebody that would come in and add something special to the music. Yeah. And I think we got that with Joe. He's incredible.
He's incredible. Yeah. I'm a fan. I love that really strong, just melodic voice, and he's got power behind it. And then hearing it live even just got me more stoked on it. And he used to play in a band that I remember, because we were wherever I've heard that voice before, but it's Wake the Dreamless, is that right?
Something like that.
Something like that. And I recognized that voice, and we were like, why did that sound familiar? And we were asking him, and he's just he's playing Wake the Dream, because when I played in Under Oblivion, we played shows together. I'm like, that's where the fuck it is. I was like, yeah. I was super excited that he's doing something again, and that because his voice just fits perfect over the instrumentals that you guys wrote. It's so sick. And I do I'm a fan of that like the heavy like technicality, but blending it into like those like really soft like melodic parts, and his voice just like floats over it. Like, cause you guys didn't change anything, right? When he ended up doing vocals, or are the songs still the same?
Slight
Very
changes.
little,
Yeah.
extremely
Slight
little.
production changes and a lot of like mix changing, and that's about.
Yeah.
I think that's for most of it.
Yeah, it's just, the mix had to be changed a little bit because we had to make some room for the vocals, right? And then just a few parts that got maybe a little more complicated or needed a little bit something to support the vocals. But overall, largely, it would be hard to pick out the differences if you did them side by side.
Because I was listening to both, and I was like trying to see if there was like a big difference, and I couldn't incredibly like tell if there was like anything. So I was wondering that, but then I was wondering if it was a mix of like if it was like how the upload happened on that, if the vocals came out first or whatever. But that's kind of cool, because that's a really good fit to find something like that.
Yeah.
I imagine that was like a hard time, like trying to find somebody to kind of find out, or was it like
we were looking passively for a while, just like I would be at work and I'd pull up Craigslist, maybe scrolling through Craigslist to see who's like if there's any look if there's any new vocalists there. And one day I see like metal vocalist seeking band, and I'm like, all right. I click on it, and I see he has a YouTube video attached to it with a song that he did himself, and I pull it up, and he's just got these beautiful harmonies, most devastating scream I've ever heard in my life, all in one guy just doing all of that. I'm like, gotta contact this guy.
So you didn't know like Joe at all, and
no,
before
Craigslist.
Craigslist.
He's a Craigslist singer.
Craigslist one.
I think he's like pretty much the first singer we really considered. We were like, hey, can you try out for this song? And he did it, and I was like, you're an angel, you're in.
You're an angel. It's like, I'm not second guessing this. I'm just gonna take this blessing.
Like, this guy's he's perfect. He's an angel.
That's cool. Like you're saying, you were writing two different kind of styles when you were initially like starting. Is there anything that kind of inclined you to write the type of stuff you're writing now, or was it really just like, let's just combine it and see what happens? Like, but what had you writing the stuff you were writing at the time?
In college, so in high school, I was in a metalcore band, like where everything was like kind of chuggy and stuff. And then, so when I got to college, I kind of had like, oh, I want to write the opposite of that a little bit. And I wrote like a bunch of light, clean stuff with like a lot of layers. And basically, we used a program called Guitar Pro, which basically you just are able to arrange music and hear it in real time played, and it sounds pretty good just on the computer. So I was able to write out full songs with all the layers and stuff, and then and then Ian was doing his thing. We can talk on that.
Yeah, I was doing my thing.
That's it. Yeah. Move along.
So Mason taught me how to write music in Guitar Pro, which is, I highly recommend it. It just streamlines everything. You can actually compose, and you play it back, and it's so much easier to visualize having something played back to you. But he taught me how to do that, and so I was really influenced by Meshuggah at the time, so I was like trying to write Meshuggah fanboy music. And so we ended up with stuff that was very like kind of dark and heavy, and stuff that was very like soothing and light and clean. And we were like, well, for a while we were like, well, this won't work. We can't be a band. These two things cannot, lemon and lime, it can't go together. But it does. It works. And so we just kind of were like, well, let's just force it, make it together, make it like a kind of a dual purpose, double-sided coin type of deal, So
it definitely opens you up to like both sides, like fans from both of those things to bridge. Because I remember like listening to. I used to never think I was gonna get into like metal. Like this was like early on, and so I was like, there's no way. And then finally, like bands that combine some of like the softer stuff that I like enjoyed into doing, like, because I was like super into like, I think like super pop punk at the time, and then like stuff like A Day to Remember like came out. I'm like, oh, like I might be able to get into this maybe. And then like eventually like becoming a fan of just metal, metal on its own, and like all like the different times, especially because there's just so much like new, like just being added to it, and then stuff like that where like these two things don't go together seem to be like the way to break through like the next kind of like type of like genre of music or whatever like you're doing is like what stuff shouldn't go together, and like let's find a way to make it like go together. Seems to be, and it just seems to be like interesting and fun to try to do stuff like that. frustrating, but like, but fun when like you get a good like end result. Like I feel like that, which is really cool. For you, Luke, like, do you think that like since you play like in a lot of other projects, do you like being able to just like write different type of things, being in an individual project, or do you bring anything over from like your other ones?
Yeah, I try to share ideas between it because that's like my brand. I'm playing the drums. I don't want, like, I do like to serve the music, but I want to serve the music and it sound like me, you know? So there's some things that I bring between, like, spineless. I've used like modulations and stuff, which is like nerdy proggy stuff that I use over here all the time. Yeah. But it hits hard sometimes, so I use it for some spineless stuff because it hits really hard. And then for spineless, like, just basic stuff like, you know, how two steps go into, you know, so like that kind of feel I'll use in one of our songs, but it's a weird pattern, like a kick pattern underneath. So then it's like got this very straightforward hand pattern, but the feet are doing something very weird underneath. Yeah. Kind of, yeah. So I try to mesh the worlds together. Like that's the best way to get a genuine sound of who you are, you know.
True. I mean, and that's, I mean, the cool thing is that you have like so many like different like projects that you can focus on and to pull from and to add to each individual project. So I imagine like it's only gonna, again, the same thing like that you guys did, combining like those two different things, like you adding other stuff that doesn't normally like quote unquote belong like in this place, and then making it part of the sound, and again adding your individualistic like taste, because that's, I feel like as a musician, that's always like kind of what you're chasing for the most part, is like how to make sure this sounds like you and like not sound like everything else or whatever influenced it, because I know like sometimes I'll have like conversation with people who are like, oh, well, they're like trying to sound like this, trying to sound like that, and normally early on you sound like a lot of the stuff that you listen to, because that's all you know how to do. Like, how do you become original like right off the bat? Like it's impossible. But seeing where you're pulling stuff from, and then I like listening like to stuff like that where you realize that you're pulling stuff from not the same genre you're listening to. It's like way outside of it to make something new. Is what seems to make like music have like its little like special moments and like where it's definitely progressing. But I definitely like your album, especially like I was again like listening to it like more recently. I definitely like the spacey feels. It's something I'm not good at, so that's why like I really enjoy when people are really good at creating space, and like there doesn't have to be like crazy amount of stuff like happening all the time, and especially like vocally also, like I'm always like, oh, it's, when I used to write, it's like there's got to be vocal like on everything, and I'm like, no, like I like experience like just some space in it, or like longer notes and like singing and stuff like that, which Joe's really good at, like in extending like certain parts. But being able to do both the screams and singing that well is something I'm always like, because that's what like I did in our band, but I'm like seeing people do it like really really well, I'm like, fuck, you know, I get a little jealous. I'm like, fuck them. Like, why are they that good? But that's really cool. As far as like the band and stuff, you say, you know, you've been starting for quite a bit. Is there any like particular thing that you guys are like really excited about doing like with this project, or is it really just like let's write some music and have fun?
Right now we're just like writing new stuff, and we're trying to get new stuff ready to play at the Chill Sounds Breakdowns, so hopefully we'll have that. I think we should have that ready to go, and then we're also writing stuff along with that, and then gonna start putting the album together, figuring out what direction we're gonna go. They write a billion trillion things and send random stuff over, so kind of have to pick and choose and then write again, you know. So yeah, it's a lot of writing, but this time that album was them two. This album is all of us getting to throw into everything. So it's like starting to become this whole like, you know, there's a lot of crazy ideas we're throwing in there, and it's because there's more people pitching into the idea pool. Yeah. So it's been fun. Yeah.
So how's that been for you guys? Like before being the two primary writers, and now like everyone's kind of like got a part in it.
It's incredible. Because as a guitarist, I'm not a drummer. I don't know how to play the drums. I can guess, but we wrote the drums ourselves for the first album, and it kind of, you know, you can kind of tell that a guitarist wrote the drum part. But this next album, we're wanting to do like live drums and stuff, and get Luke behind the kit doing the crazy crap he knows how to do this guy's a beast, and
Can confirm.
like, yeah, that's what I'm most excited about. Is like, I feel like we've really grown. We're growing musically because we're able to like, we've grown musically, but now we're getting outside influence and people that like actually play their instrument to like play the instrument, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
I think I'm really excited to explore new sonic territory that you know I felt like our debut album was, you know, pretty diverse, but our new album so far we got saxophone, we got an acoustic song slated,
Really?
we've got
Okay.
like a pop song.
We have a
Like-
song. We have like some Depeche Mode vibes.
Yeah,
in
that's the
there,
pop,
Really?
yeah. It's like a Depeche kind of '80s pop
but
song.
it's prog.
Holy
so it's,
shit.
And so it's like-
very
That sounds right up my
interesting.
alley because like that '80s like synth pop
It's kind
stuff
of
is
dark,
like
but it's
Yes.
but that dark synth pop side. Yeah.
And then I almost feel like the heavy songs are like somehow even a little heavier, but it's like, for example, Soul, which, you know, we can spill the beans on that one because we played it live, but that has like some beat down, a lot of like kind of beat down vibes to it. So all these territories that we didn't explore in the debut, now we're like really trying to just confuse people.
that's the goal. It's,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I know what they're gonna come out with. The fuck you do. Like
Yeah.
that's honestly like a really cool like and just honest goal, like 'cause people tend to like expect like the same thing or like a slightly thing, and I don't know, the more with like time and just like maybe just getting older, I appreciate that more at a band. So just like they take risks and stuff, and I still have my moments where I'm like I hate it, and then like I give it some time and I'm like this is fucking cool. Like it just takes me taking a step back and being like, all right, accept that they're gonna change, they're gonna make stuff that they think is cool, you know what I mean, and then just give it a shot. And it does, you know, it doesn't always fall through, but most of the time I just like, dude, like they like took a risk, they had something that they knew was working, and they switched it up and did something completely different, and it, you know, it worked for them. Plus as a musician, it just, you're gonna get bored, right? Like if you keep like writing that stuff, so stuff like this is like not uncommon anymore, like to hear from like musicians, like yeah, obviously like you're gonna want to try to do cool shit. And then like live, like there's a band called Dispositions that like I talk to them all the time, and they were doing a certain thing like all the time, and they haven't released a lot of the stuff that they're talking about, but they've like were talking to me and they're like, oh yeah, we wrote a country song, and I'm like, you guys are like a metalcore band? It's like yeah, like we also wrote like a really like heavy like 80s synth like song, and they played that one live, and I heard it and I'm like, that's fucking crazy, like that's good. Like I and again, instead of like just hearing that idea, I'm like, how are you doing that? And then I listened to it live and I'm like, you made it work. Like
that's how.
Yeah, that's how. Like, you know what I mean? It's not my, you know, I'm not the one writing it. Like you are. Like if you find a way to do it, like take a risk and fucking play it. But I just like appreciate that, like out of musicians and artists, like because it's, I know like when you do weird stuff. Bart, what are you doing back there? Oh, is it Zenny? I told you he was gonna get into some shit. Zenny's always knocking shit over. Okay? As long as it's not any of this crap, which he has done before. Yeah, we got heavier stuff, so he can't do that. But no, that's gotta be like really fun. So right now it's just pure writing style. Like, sorry, you're in the writing of like trying to do a new album. Like, what's your like strategy behind it? Right now, is it just writing songs and figuring out how they're gonna fit together later, or do you like have a concept in mind?
I don't think there's a concept. I think we just wrote songs and we're gonna decide which ones go together.
Yeah, I would say it's pretty much written, right?
Yeah.
It's all right. All the songs are written. We need to kind of do some like
Workshopping.
passes. Yeah,
Spice
some
rap.
workshopping on like half of
A
them.
lot of it.
Yeah, just to, I would say about half on the new album are like
Pretty
they're done. They're set in stone,
Hey,
and then the
Zenny.
oh.
Crazy.
He's starting his shit.
But yeah, I think now we're just kind of focusing on production, getting vocals written for some of them.
Yeah.
Working with the vocals take a while because it's just so complex, like what Joe comes up with, and then do you remember like he put this like major harmony over like a purely chromatic part in Listless, like, and he made it work. He's like singing beautiful major chords over like this nasty chromatic. Yeah, it just is. I was, if you would have told me that on paper, I'd say no, get out of here. It works, and so it's just stuff like that. It's just like really getting it how we want it.
Do you think adding like once like you got the whole band and now writing as a full band, do you think it's helped push you past like your comfort zones on like writing?
For sure.
Yeah. I feel like my drumming since I've joined their band, they've pushed me more than anything else to get into it, because I first tried out for them and I was like, I did not do good enough on there, and I was like worried, and then so I worked on drumming a lot, and there was a gap from trying out to when I started, and during that gap I worked a lot, so you know, I kind of started being able to figure out more of their songs, eventually learn the songs. Now I'm writing the songs with them, so it's, I don't know, man. It's, we'll see. I lost my train of thought a little bit.
But I think it's definitely helped you like level up your playing and stuff, like when you're playing with like other people, like
and all of us, I think, all of us has been pretty consistent, because like they're writing stuff like. One of our new songs, me and Mason were at the house, and he saw the DAW had a song in it, and like he was like, "Ooh, what's this?" And he walked in, I followed him, and he just hit spacebar, and then it played this song, and me and him were like, "Holy shit!" And then we were like, "Why are you hiding this from me?" He was like, "Dude, it's not done yet, dude. It's not done. I wasn't finished with it." And then and I was like, "Nah, dude, put that on the drive. We're gonna start working on that one," and I'm excited for that one, but that's a pretty fresh one. But yeah, man, we're all improving, and I think we're helping each other improve from learning each other's thinking of writing, like concepts and all that stuff.
I feel like that's a big deal, like learning how other people write, because if you only focus on the way you write, you become very what is it, like just like tunnel vision, where you like can only see like a song being written from one point of view, and it's not until you start like getting outside of that bubble with like other people, or just like even people like sit in on other people's writing sessions, or just like while they're recording. I keep bringing it up, but I do that. I did that quite a bit, and just like sit in with like different people, and I hear whatever they're writing, and I'm like, this is kind of what I would do, and then they take it completely like somewhere different, and I'm like, okay, like I wouldn't have fathomed that, but it's, and then just seeing that ability of other people to. Obviously, everyone's got to have their own take on stuff and using their influences to write stuff, but being able to bring some of that back and elevate the way you're writing, you know what I mean? And like having a band where everyone's writing is, again, like I've had moments where that's like, we get people like bumping heads quite a bit, but it's also like a window to like listen to other things that people were writing, and then also, you know, like, okay, maybe this can go this way, and figuring it out. But it has been something like frustrating that I've dealt with in the past, where like everyone's like, when everyone's a writer, because there's like certain bands where like it's a whole band, but like they have like 1 to 2 writers who write everything. Everybody else just like play along, maybe add a thing here or there. But when everyone's like strong writers, like if you can figure out like the little like the arguing, make sure like everybody knows the way like you think and write, and the more you play together, the more that's gonna become more instinctual and like natural to be like, okay, like I know kind of what they're looking for when you communicate with each other. When people always talk about like, you know, band talk, where people are just like, oh, try this, and it's just a bunch of sounds, and we're like, okay, I know exactly what you're talking about, like let me play it. And especially having someone that you like you were saying, like someone that actually like is now like actually knows how to like play drums, and it's not like me trying to think like, I think this is like a good beat, like this and be able to communicate that, and you understand like this is what we need, and you know, vice versa. It's got to be really cool, and I'm glad like you guys are getting like a really, really good footing on that dynamic, because I know it tends to be the tough part in like in bands is that chemistry, especially in writing. But that's really cool. How do you, so you guys are in the early stages of that. For well, not really early stages. You said you're almost done.
Demos. We got demos.
Demos
for some of the songs.
Ideas put down entirely, but a lot of work to be done on those.
What do you think about the whole like release process of like figuring out how to put it out, Chris? And, like,
I feel like we're gonna cross that bridge when we get there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We need work on that. We're bad at the release process. Or like we're bad at like promoting ourselves. We'll say that.
It's a weird thing to do. Like I don't know. Like I always think about it, and just having to think about like, oh, I should probably post about this like again or find a creative way. It just makes me like, I don't want to do that. Like I just want to write music and play it, and that should be enough. But like in this day and age, like it seems to not be, man, and it sucks, you know, because you have to, you know, post or like I feel like every conversation I have people like keep bringing up like TikTok and shit like that, and it's like it sounds exhausting.
I don't know. I think we've got one or two. We kind of started making a music video. That's kind of on pause, but it's still going to happen. But I think that was kind of an idea of saying, well, instead of just asking people to listen to us, you know, on social media, what if we give them something like a music video to kind of more say, hey, look at this, you know, rather than go click on our link. It's we just bring it to them because we don't have a music video yet. So that's something that.
Well, look, who just interrupted the Chill Sounds and Breakdowns podcast? The damn creator of the damn Chill Sounds and Breakdowns. I don't know, figure it out.
It's gonna be some laser.
Don't knock anything over.
Laser action.
Daniel,
Tenacious D, laser.
DJ Alvarez just walked in. Hey, do you guys know what DJ stands for?
That doesn't add up. That's TF. No, that's not right.
What?
Shut the fuck up.
What? Oh, Ed always says it's Dick Ginormous. With the J. And then the other day he's like, you know what DJ stands for? I'm like, what? He's like, he's a damn gentleman. And I'm like, that's a G too. Like, what the fuck are you doing?
Interchangeable.
He's just using J's for everything. But no, music videos are like a good way to like promote stuff, and it's fun, and it also gets to flex a different part of like the creative process that you don't get out of writing. But like I think a lot of the stuff that like, and again, it's easy once you find like your niche way of doing stuff, because like I've seen people take like the cookie cutter way and just be like, oh well, they're doing this, I'll just do the same thing, kind of to promote on social media. But I like people who find like if they're like, I bet, like, I mean, just for me, just, like, from you guys, like, seeing, like, part of that writing process, and just, like, I like seeing, like, stuff like people tracking things and, like, just working on parts or, like, someone trying to nail a part and messing it up over and over. I don't know, like, all that stuff is, like, interesting because I'm like, all right, like, it humanizes that process because people just want to feel connected, I feel like, to artists and stuff like that. Which is a big reason like why I even like started this, and I'm like, I feel like people just see like bands and like they play. I'm like, that's all they do. You know what I mean? Like, no, they're people, man. They're just hanging out. And I feel like it makes it more accessible because I feel like when I was growing up and seeing like bands play, even like at the local level before I was in one, I'm like, oh, that's like I can't do that. How do they do that? And then you just like start meeting people and realize like, oh, they just got together and we're just playing music, and then was like, let's start a band. Like, you know, it's not crazy hard, like. Or it's not impossible, but I feel like when you look at promoting stuff from the social media aspect, for me, I enjoy that more and seeing like how to connect in a genuine way, not just like, hey, I'm pushing stuff at you, be like, okay, and people seem to want just like connection with like whatever they're listening to, from like the music to like the person, which is kind of hard sometimes if that's not like your personality type, you know what I mean? If that's not you, like wanting to let a lot of people into like yourself or like what you do, that seems to be the difficult part. So like if you don't have that, it's kind of weird. And I'll feel like that sometimes where I'm like, I'll put a lot of shit, like a lot of the NoiseROT stuff, a lot of this, like I'm always like in front of a camera and stuff like that, and I do well like in this setting, and then I'll go out and like be like, you know, I'm not talking to anybody, or people like you know, going up to somebody and just saying hi or stuff like that. Even if we've talked, I'm like, I've had people on the podcast that I go out there and I'm like, I don't know if I can say hi to them. You know? Yeah. I'm like, they've been in my house. You know, like I shouldn't even just say like hello. But it's kind of weird. Like it's why I enjoy like the space I get to like, you know, talk to like musicians, just like have a conversation. But I'm doing okay at becoming that, because I realized that once this started going, I'm like, man, I'm gonna have to kind of become like a personality type thing. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready for that. Like I'm good at being a person, but not like, I don't know, whatever this is. But I'm like, whatever, you know, I'm just going to make stuff that I like and enjoy. And then plus I know what the bigger purpose of it is like, I was like, I want to like help like promote like music that's like right around here, you know what I mean? It's not far, and like good shit that's around here that a lot of people sometimes don't take notice or don't understand, or people have heard of you but like not your process and things like that. Which I remember like when I was seeing like bands when I was growing up, I used to really enjoy like studio updates. You know, I used to just love seeing them because they were always like, and I feel like there was a time where everyone was doing like studio updates, and you could see, and they would do like their little parts in series and stuff. Some of them would be silly. Like I brought up, I think like again, like I think a day to remember the ones I used to watch like early on with like Andrew Wade in Florida, and Andrew Wade's a freaking idiot, but like they were funny, and I'm like, I like that, and that's like for me, that's my preference. Like I like music, and I like being funny and shit, so that worked for me. But also just seeing processes of things, like again, it's always trying to not to be as, I think it's just finding like your personality and how to do it. But it is a little strange to get started and figuring out how to do it and be like, oh, okay, like what am I posting today? That doesn't feel forced. So it's like this weird balance that is kind of awkward.
We'll figure it out.
That's what it is. That's all you can do. You know what I mean? Like, the only thing I've looked at is the idea behind like dropping like an entire album all together or dropping it as singles. I've been seeing a lot more people take the single route. Do you guys think there's an advantage over one or the other?
Singles give you more chances to promote if you're good at promoting, but they do kind of they can take away from the story aspect of the album if there is one, I guess. But yeah, I think I agree. Singles are kind of like the way to go nowadays. Like a bunch of singles with like their own stuff around them.
Well, shows are doing that too now. They're like releasing half a season. You know, Stranger Things half is season whatever part 1, then part 2. It's like everything is intentionally splitting it up to keep the keep the excitement alive almost. You know, so yeah, it's probably a smart move. But
I mean, because you get to see both, because like there's like what was regular like your network ones were like every week and then some people are still doing, you know, like every week you get one episode, but they get these long ass seasons that take up an entire, you know, year. And then you have like, let's say like Stranger Things drop, you know, everything, even if it was a part, they dropped everything at once. Stranger Things was everywhere during that span of time, so they did like dominate that time. But now like no one's talking about Stranger Things like that now, you know what I mean? Like because there's another thing coming out, so there is an advantage to the binge, which I think would be like dropping the entire album, but you would have to be super heavy on that album, like pushing. Either way, you're gonna have to push. The only thing with singles that I see is that you can, if you have like a 12 song album, you can drop one every month and have like a relevancy every month. But the only thing is, I do see your point about like it'll take away from the entire project as a whole, especially if you've written it in a way that like I want people to enjoy this entire thing together. And I've had those moments where like I will refrain from listening to singles because I want to wait for the album, like depending on who the artist is, but like I'll want to hear the whole thing like back to back. That's why I've gotten mad at Spotify sometimes, because it's like it shuffles like a new album and I'm like, why would I want to do that? Like there's an order to these things and I would like to listen to it like in a specific order. And I forgot what album it was, and I noticed like halfway through and I'm like, what the fuck? Like I looked at the track listing and like it didn't look like this. I'm like, ah, damn it! Like so I didn't even know where I was. I'm like, how do I know like if I'm done with the album? But yeah, like it's this weird, complicated thing again, where it fights both halves of like, yes, I would like to, have my music listened to and paid attention to, versus like sometimes you'll work on an album really hard, drop it, and then like people are on to the next thing within like the next month, if you're lucky, which is why I do see the advantage of singles, but the appreciation of the art of like that entire project is also like the battle. So it just depends on like how you're writing, I guess, that album and how you feel like it. But if you feel like it's a whole thing, I definitely see the want and the appeal to like I want this project to just drop all together and not do a single. But even there's people who only write stuff as singles, not even as part of an album. It's like we just like write a song, drop it, write a song, drop it. So I enjoy seeing that because it's cool that people can just write music and drop it whenever they want. That's the only thing that I'm like, that's really cool. But as far as like creating something, I feel like it takes away from that. But I have no idea. I can't, like, I haven't dropped music in so long. And then I'm like, I remember, like, I think we just dropped everything at once. It was just like an EP. I'm like, that's fine. Like, it'll be okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't even thinking about any of that shit. Yeah. But then that was my experience. That we wrote an entire EP. We suck. We took forever to record this thing. The newest song on the EP was like 3 years old. But we spent all this money on like everything to make sure the cover, we like paid to have like the whole like CD insert made and all this like shit. And then like the next month it was like done. And I'm like, well, okay. Yeah. You know? So it's probably like why I'm like, I lean more towards that side. I'm like, okay, I would like to take advantage of having something stay relevant, I guess, for lack of a better term, throughout many times. But it's like that whole business side of like music that's kind of like when you're writing and as an artist, like you really don't like to think about we're having to worry about it, because the most enjoyable part is like writing the music and then playing shows. Do you guys normally tend to like keep playing like a lot of shows throughout the year, or kind of handpick them out?
I don't know. I feel like it depends on if we get asked, or if I reach out and I'm like, hey, or they'll post like, hey, we would like to, it's not like planned. It's not like we want to play 8 shows by December or something. It's just like, if anybody's asking us to play shows, we'll probably play them, making sure that, I guess we're not going to stick out too much and bore people or make people fall asleep or anything, but I don't know. I think we just play whatever comes up, man. Like, hopefully soon it'll be more planned and planning ahead, but for right now we're kind of just playing whatever we can get so we can test out new music live and figure out new set lists and stuff like that between our new and old music.
I think it'd be hard to coordinate too sometimes, because like all 5 of us work full time and do other stuff, attend family events and whatnot, and so it's kind of like a show comes up, it'll be like 2 months out, and we'll be like, it's my dog's birthday, I can't I can't go. So that I feel like that's happened a few times where events like that kind of prevent us from going to shows. Actually, y'all played one without me, which was I'm glad that y'all did, because I'm like, that looked great. But yeah, so that happens too. So, and actually our next show, Joe's not gonna be there. So now I think now we're just kind of like, yeah, it was fine. Can we survive without the member? Probably couldn't survive without the drums. That'd be rough.
A little weird.
It'll be a little unhinged, but yeah. So.
Do you mentioned that I'm gonna touch on what you said, Luke. So you're like that you don't stick out like so much. Do you tend to like look at like who you're playing with and like kind of analyze if you're gonna fit into like the bill? Is that something like that is an actual like worry like
with Spineless? I'm not worried about it. I've played a bunch of mixed bills with them. With this band, I don't really know what our fan base would be. Like, I don't know if it's like all proggy people who are only musicians. I don't know if it's people who aren't musicians but like Meshuggah or something. Yeah. Some people might like the soft stuff but not the heavy stuff, and vice versa, the heavy stuff. So I don't really have a gauge on exactly what people think about us, because we haven't played a trillion shows or anything. So I have no idea. It's good to at least know before the show when we play it, and then when we play it, we can see what the response is, and then we can know, okay, cool, this crowd of people is open to listening to our kind of music. So then it makes it okay, cool. We can kind of follow down that direction and maybe play some more shows in that direction that we didn't have before. So
we need to chase down some audience members and corner them,
yeah,
interrogate them and say,
what did you like?
Did you like it?
Have them fill out a whole like survey. What exactly did you like? It's like, oh, that one part. What's it? I need a timestamp.
Surveys.
That's not
all
a bad
right, we're gonna
idea.
be gathering these at the door. We won't be able to let you leave until
You can't leave unless you fill it out. But yeah, that is a finding your fan base is a tough thing. Plus, because that's the only thing I do enjoy about mixed bills is that you do get to find some people that would be your fan base that are going to something that maybe they weren't like expecting what you guys are doing. So it helps in that aspect. I do get like sometimes the fear of like playing and like being like everybody like is not into this, and it's kind of weird. Like that's like the nightmare scenario of thinking. Have you guys ever played anything that's been like super weird?
I don't think so. I think everybody's kind of just like, what just happened in front of it, like, because they're all doing like or whatever their tippy tappy stuff, and then we have our Meshuggah stuff. So people are like, I don't really understand what's going on, but it's going on. Whatever it is. You know, I don't know if people have an opinion. I think they're kind of just like, that was crazy.
Yeah.
That was the most. That's like usually what it is like, what was that? What were you doing at that one part? Like, it's always just about a part or a song. Like, that song was like, I didn't know what was going on, so.
Stabbed you. Hey, Zenny. I'm being a dick.
He's vibing.
But, yeah, it's kind of weird gauging, like, audience reactions sometimes. Because, like, you could, like, I mean, the obvious one is, like, people moving around or doing something to yourself. Like, it's like, okay, I think I'm doing a good job. But then you get people who are just like, and that could be good because like they're listening, right? And I feel like because I found myself like doing that at like shows, and I'll just like stand there and I'm like, this shit is sick, but I'm not. I realize like what they're seeing is me.
Yeah, that's
and
me,
like, you know what I mean? Like,
like, wow, this is incredible.
And it,
I'm just standing there with my arms crossed,
just glaring at
them. Yeah, I'm just like, that guy hates us.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like the reaction,
from,
from the stage, you're looking down and be like, oh, this dude is not into it. And I'm in my head, I'm like, this is the greatest thing I've ever heard. Like, so that's really weird. And like, unless you like get to talk to people, which is hard on both ends. Like sometimes they won't want to come up to you, or like again, you're like, it's weird to go up to like audience members and stuff like that and ask them like, oh, like what'd you think? And that, but I don't think I've ever gone out and asked like the audience for like stuff, but I've seen other people ask me and be like, oh, but I think what this one band had is that they had someone who wasn't like in the actual band. I think it was the person running their merch. Once they finished playing, I think they walked around with like. What do they walk around with? Stickers? Or I can't remember. Something that they were giving us, but they were asking at the same time. It's like, oh, like, what'd you think about them? Blah, blah. And they were like making sure like you knew like their social media and stuff like that. Walking around. I'm like, that's kind of cool. And it leaves like you from you having to do it. But I mean, they had somebody to help them out do it. And I'm like, most of the time it's like, oh, I got to figure out how to do this stuff. or when you just play a shit like a set. And people are trying to come up to you and talk to you. Sometimes, like I'm just like I just got done tired. Like, I don't like have to talk, but you kind of
have to like tear down. They'll like try to talk to you while you're like pulling a cab off the stage.
And then like the next person's going up. It's like I gotta get all this shit like off now.
Hold that thought.
He's like, I like that you think my band's cool, but give me a second. Like
One of the beneficial things we did was Tyler recorded one of our shows, but like where he had to put the camera meant that we could see like the first couple rows of audience members, and going back and looking at that is nice because like in the moment I'm just like terrified of hitting the wrong note, so I'm just trying to like play my guitar. I'm not looking at people, but like going back and being able to watch that, like seeing someone's head bob, that's like a really affirming thing. It's like, this is the stuff that I don't get to like enjoy in the moment, of just knowing that, hey, that guy's vibing.
Yeah. It's like if I check one audience member, like I might screw up. Like,
I've done it before. I'm like, oh, don't do that.
Don't move, don't look up.
Don't move, don't look up the whole time. It's just like, I got to make sure this is fine. That's all I'm like.
It's all locked in.
I've had to learn to move around more. I get stiff.
It's tough. I mean, it's hard to move around in
I'm like a scarecrow.
With the stuff you guys are playing, like it'd be hard. Like,
yeah. Well, and also learning how to move around without looking dumb too. Because I could like do a little like kind of.
The looking dumb is part, dude. I love it.
If we all did it, it would be powerful.
When I play.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
All over the place, bro.
Because that is one thing that I feel like I notice a lot more these days is like chemistry on stage. Just if you look like you're having fun, then I'm like fuck it. I mean, as a band, like as a musician, you'll be like, oh, I messed up this and that, and you come off stage and like, I don't fucking know. Yeah. Unless it's like super bad, but normally it's not. It's like a missed note or something, or you played something wrong. The person down there like was just like focused on like what was happening, like having a good time. Right. And then normally they're like, yeah, you played fucking great. And then in your head, and I remember I used to always come off stage and be like, no, I fucked up this, and this. And I'm like, I gotta stop saying that like to people who enjoyed the set, because they're like, oh, okay, fuck that guy. Like,
Bro, I've stopped playing before because I just couldn't. Not with this band, but in my past, I've stopped playing before entirely. It just blanked out on the part, and then it ended. But I remember where the fill was, so I and finished it.
Yeah.
And then when it ended, I was like, bro, I can't believe. Like I was talking to people, I was like, I can't believe that happened. And they were like, what are you talking about? The part where I stopped playing, they were like, oh, I thought that was part of the song, and I was like. That was like an entire section of a song.
Drumless.
And they were like, I mean, it didn't sound bad with them. Like, I was like, maybe I shouldn't have thrown, like, nobody would have known. I threw myself straight under the bus.
It's true. Like, you know, something like that, it was huge, like, to you. Like, I wasn't playing. Like, how do you not notice that? And people, like, don't.
Like,
like,
it sounded like a song.
Yeah. I mean, they don't know what you're writing, like, you know what I mean? Unless you, like, on stage, you're super obvious, like, fucked up. Because I've had, like, I've had times where we were like in the middle of a set and playing, and we screwed up, and it was a pretty bad screw up. But when they like the band like stopped playing, we're like, okay, we'll start it all over. And I'm like, if we would have just played through, like we could have figured it out. You know what I mean? And like, you know, it would have been way less noticeable than stopping the set and be like, all right, let's start that one over. You know? And we had to learn how to adapt and like kind of get over that, like in that band, because we were like that, like super intense, but we're like, no, it's gotta be played right. And then, you know, it's just and doing shit like that, like, okay, we'll just stop and start all over. And I'm like, nah, I ain't doing that. We'll just go. We had like what we used to have is started having a lot of technical issues because we started playing to an actual like click. We were playing like to that before, and then we had lights that we set up, just like those typical bar metalcore lights, and they look cool when they worked. And then like when they didn't, like we would start the set, like a DJ's the one that would like set everything up. Most of the time, like they would like something would mess up, either, you know, someone wasn't hearing a click, or because they were all running off the same program, the lights and the clicks and everything. And like I was like, well, we can't hear the backtracks, like, but the lights are working. I'm like, what the hell? And then we were spending time, and then like the sets go, like the time limit on it's like we have to go. And I'm like, I started being just like, fuck it, we're not doing that anymore. That's and like I remember he ended up selling them, but I'm like, yeah, I don't want those shits anymore. Like they cause way more. They look cool, like they work when they work, but when it didn't, it was a damn like nightmare. And the DJ was always like pissed. He's like, leave me alone. Like I'm working on it to fix it. I'm like, this causes us too much stress. Let's just play it. Like,
it's crazy.
Yeah, that's
just it's scary, dude.
It's scary when you're up there, especially, you know what I mean? Because like everyone's just watching you, like, just, you know, the struggle, and you're over here like having like the worst time. I'm like, holy fuck. And then like I was like vocalist, I'm like, okay, do I entertain here? So my like comedian shit comes out. It's like, well, how's everybody doing? Like, he's like, are you guys together? You guys came together? How long have you guys had? Like, I don't know. Like, what do I do like while this goes on? And I don't know how long it's gonna go on for. And I'm like, it's, you know, he's like, hey, it's been like 10 minutes. And it's like, it's been like 2. I was like, well, it feels like fucking forever up here. Like, we need to just go. And as an audience too, like an audience just staring at you. I've had like instances like that. Did you guys ever play like down here when Tomcats was a thing?
I don't think we did. I've played Tomcats. I don't think we did as a band though.
Mm-mm. There was an old sound guy called he left like way before it closed, but his name was James. And this dude was the calmest, best sound guy I've ever ran into in my life. He had everything you ever needed, like if you were missing something, and he was always that calming voice where we were like freaking out. He's like, no, it's cool, man, we do this. And like right away would fix it. I'm like, all right, cool. And I'm like, yeah, man, I'm glad you're here. Like, cause I'd be freaking the fuck out like the whole time by not having something or something not working in the moment. Like,
I think I know who you're talking about.
He was
super chill,
super
tattoos,
chill,
long hair.
Yeah.
I think he works at Rubber Gloves now.
Does he?
He worked at Haltom, I think, for a little bit.
I don't think he worked at Haltom. Might be a different.
It was like a tiny stint of time.
No, he was there for a minute. He was there for a minute. No, this is way before. Yeah, that was.
Well, I'm talking about Haltom was in 2020 is when that.
Yeah, that guy, because he worked at the Rail Club too. I think the one you were talking about a while back. Yeah, and he was cool too.
He's super chill.
Yeah, he was super chill. Yeah.
Sounded like the same guy. I was like,
no, that's it. Because the other guy was older, but he left way before 2020. Yeah, he left a long time. He had
interesting.
Yeah, but yeah, the dude had your back on like everything, which was great to have, because we were like starting out when we met him, and we were like, I don't know shit about shit. Like I didn't know how to check my mic, like to know how loud I needed my monitors. I'd just be like, check. I'm like, and I was so nervous that I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. That I'm like, that's fine. And then like I wouldn't be able to hear myself during the set. Cool. So, yeah, I started just telling you, I was like, DJ, just wherever I say it's okay, like turn it up way louder than that, like so like because that's usually what it was.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was listening to. It took me forever to like finally understand like how to get my shit done. But I was always like just super nervous of like the sound guy just being like, this guy's a fucking moron. Like, let's just move on. That was always my fear. So I was just like, yeah, that's fine, and just struggle through it. Yeah, pretty much just the whole time. Yeah, and that was the thing. Like, I didn't know how to balance power and screaming and power and singing, which is something like with Joe that like, dude can keep up the same intensity on both of those, and I'm like, dude, like you're fine. Because I could scream like pretty well, and I could sing decently, but they weren't at the same levels. So like you wouldn't hear the singing because the screaming was louder, and that's what they would check the sound check on. And I'm like, I need to learn how to get those both up there, which is cool that like you guys have an excellent vocalist. That is no problem with that.
He's a pro.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out Joe, wherever you are.
Yeah, shout out
Love you, Joe.
Love you, Joe. Absolutely.
Man, what are so you guys are playing? Which stage are you guys playing again? You guys
The lot.
The lot. Oh, outside.
The lot, yeah.
Nice. That's gonna be a fun one, because that's where we're gonna have like everything. The guys because the guys that did like the skate ramps last time, they're bringing a different like company too. It's like a stunt company. And they bring a little bit like bigger ramps, and then I don't know if they're doing a show. We're figuring it out yet, but they do like pyrotechnics and shit like that in their show. So like some of that shit's gonna be going on like while like people are playing out there, and I'm like, it's gonna be I'm like it's gonna be sick, and that's where like all the vendors are gonna be set up too. So like you guys will get all that crowd like too, and it should be a pretty like decent dynamic between everything like all three stages.
That's sick.
Where they should like coordinate with each other so that everybody can see most like things together. Plus, I don't know, playing outside always just seems like
it's
fun.
dope. Yeah. The way it feels, my drums feel different when I play inside and outside.
Yeah.
No idea why. They sound better outside. I don't know, dude. It's a vibe. I'm excited.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a good festival vibes, man. Which we're excited. It's definitely a bigger than last year that we're doing. So we're excited to get all the bands that we have playing, all the acts, everything seems to be falling like into place, and we're like, this is gonna be great. I'm gonna end up stressed as hell, but it's gonna be a great time.
Around everywhere.
That last year he got heat stroke. You guys knew that, right? Yeah, DJ was like set up everything.
Run into something because he like walked up and he was like, "Oh, what's up?" And he was like drenched in sweat. I was like, "What up, bro?" I gave him a hug, and then he was like, "All right, I gotta go do this thing," and then ran away. And I was like, and then the whole night I just saw his.
That's what he did the entire. Because he plays drums with Ryker, with Ryker Hall, and he played his set, and like one of the things with heat shows, like you start cramping up like everywhere. So like he's like drumming, and he's just like, I was like, oh, he's feeling it. I'm like, no, he's like all his muscles are just cramping up, everything's just hurting. He like ends up saying, he's like, all right, he goes like inside, just like he's on the floor. And I'm like, you're okay. Luckily, we had somebody there who is an EMT.
Yeah.
So he like came and like brought his stuff and checked him out. He's like, yeah, like when was the last time you've eaten? He's like, a couple days ago. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what do you mean? And like he was running around so much that he wasn't like taking time to like drink water, like do anything and eat. Like he bought food that day, and it was literally like on the counter in like the inside where he's like, oh, I left it there, I forgot to eat. And I'm like, all right, man. So like I told him, I was like, hey, just so you know, like we're gonna have a conversation about your health. He's like, yeah. And I was like, no, it's cool, not today. Like, have fun the rest of the day. Like, all right, you're okay right now. Well, we're gonna talk about this, all right? Like we need to take better care of you, like which I'm glad this year we have a bigger team. Like we have a bigger like thing. Doing it at the post helps us with staffing and stuff like that, so people take care of the stuff that we don't have to like take care of. We'll actually have like security like this summer out. Everyone like running different things, so it'll be definitely a lot smoother process. And we're definitely glad that you guys are playing. Honestly, like we're super excited.
I appreciate it. Yeah. Excited.
Happy to do
we're all like fans, and that's probably the cool thing about this is that. Mostly everybody that's on here, like either I am have been a fan or I'm like a new fan that like just finding him through this, like finding new stuff. Because even with this, like I'm finding new artists too. So I'm doing the same experience that like the audience gets to do. It's like, oh, okay, like we're finding new music through like these stuff where I'm like, oh, like I don't know these people. Because that's how this list became. Like we were all suggesting like from different stuff that we knew. and trying to make it as diverse as possible. Just again to add that factor of like, okay, maybe normally like, you know, you wouldn't listen to this, but you might like it.
Check
you
it
know?
out.
Check it
Yeah.
out, and it creates that because I've been to a lot of mixed bill shows that I'm like, all right, man, like I wasn't coming for this, but I enjoyed this.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Sweet. Sure.
it's definitely a common thing.
I think that's that's how we found out about Unity.
Unity
Yeah.
TX.
Yeah. We
They're
were just
dope.
at like a beatdown show that you were playing in, and they came out. I was like, whoa,
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, that's how I found out about Zettabyte, which they were
really?
playing last year, and I saw them, and I was like,
Zettabyte's
Sick.
sick.
yeah,
Zettabyte's so
little
sick.
genty, little.
Wait,
crazy
Jonathan is in both those bands.
mathcore.
Jonathan Flores, their drummer, is in Unity TX and Zettabyte.
Yeah, is he their drummer?
There's a drummer,
right now?
yeah.
Dope.
Yeah.
Because at the time when I talked to him, he was like, yeah, I think he was a temporary drummer.
For Zeta, yeah, no, he's been the
He's
newest,
like, all right,
he's like the
this is
newest
dope.
addition to it, yeah. And it hits in Marx's like boxes on like
Yeah.
what he loves, so
It's
he
a lot.
really
It
enjoys
sounds
yeah.
so much fun to play, dude.
Yeah, all those like
Sounds
they got
so
a song
fun.
called G/E,
Yeah.
and it's like this 8-9 minute song, and it's fucking it. I
All
think
over.
almost every 2 minutes it changes completely, and you're listening to this thing. I'm like, what the like every time like I think I catch it, it switches again, and like I'm like, what the fuck? This is.
Yeah.
And by the end, I'm like, it's I'm one of those where I'm like, man, it's like, what happened? I don't know what happened, but I like that. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'll listen to it again. But yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy having. He's one of the weirdest. Like, I mean, Unity's on tour right now with
Yeah.
Silverstein, like the
Yeah,
Emily
crazy.
Affliction and shit. Yeah,
That's cool.
Surreal.
which is yeah crazy because I've known him for quite a bit. I forgot one of his first bands that he played in, but he's always been so sick. Like,
And he was in Doggos when I first saw him in Doggo.
Doggo, I miss Doggo.
Yeah.
R.I.P. Doggo.
Dope, yeah.
I don't want to clean this up. Yeah. Just fry this whole podcast. Fuck it. No, but yeah, again, and thank you guys for stopping by. I really, really appreciate you guys taking the time out. And honestly, like, I'm looking forward to all the new people that are gonna listen to you guys, because I'm sure like that you're gonna find a bunch of people that enjoy it, because it's fucking sick. It's
Yeah.
sick. And any new music that you guys coming out, send us our way.
Absolutely.
If you want to send me that weird 80s one earlier, because I want to hear that one.
It'll be added to the live set soon, probably.
Yeah, that's a tough one for
Yeah,
me,
we're-
dude. There's some weird. It's interesting vibes.
You've done harder.
You saw
so-
me. You saw me kind of playing it today. So.
Yeah, yeah.
I just
You're.
gonna do a couple things.
It'll be out there. I think right now it's a pretty. Yeah, we'll get.
Well, you better get good, son, because I'm trying to hear this. But again, thank you guys for
It's okay.
coming out. You guys check out everything that Azimuth Zenith has to come out. They have 2 albums. I mean, it's slightly variations. One's
Yeah.
instrumental, one's
Yeah.
not. One's got vocals. They're both equally enjoyable and like different, like whatever mood you're in. If you don't want to hear anybody singing at you, fine, just listen to some grooves, man. But yeah, thank you guys for stopping by. We'll see you at Chill Sounds and Breakdowns October 15th. You can still get your tickets; they're still discounted. And we'll link all their stuff down at the bottom, man. Thank you guys for coming by again.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
We did it.
Liquid Death.
Liquid Death.